Montgomery Community Media presents Small Business Network, brought to you by Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. SBN is also sponsored by M&T Bank and Leadership Montgomery.
Hello and welcome to Montgomery Community Media's Small Business Network. I'm your host, Kelly Leonard. Thank you for tuning in to this special edition of Small Business Network at Home. Joining us by phone is Maryland Commerce Secretary Kelly Schultz. And online, I'm joined by the President and CEO of Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation, Benjamin Wu. Welcome, Kelly and Ben. It's great to have both of you here with us. Between the global health and race-related pandemics, we've seen quite a bit of activity. We have a lot of ground to cover during this short conversation. So I just want to jump right into this interview. First up, Kelly, I know Maryland Commerce received nearly 30,000 applications for its Small Business Emergency Relief Loan and Grant Program. How did the agency handle this massive number of requests, and how many businesses have you all been able to assist?
Wow, that's a great question. And first of all, thanks for having me on today. I know it's quite a pleasure to be able to get to communicate with people all across the state, but I'm happy to be back virtually in Montgomery County. So thank you, Kelly and Ben, for having us on today. 30,000 applications for the combined relief grants and loans was far surpassed any type of business application assistance programs that the department would typically get in a normal type of a year. And it was pretty extraordinary. In the first 2 days alone, we received over 5,000 grant applications, for example. Wow. So we immediately learned that we had to address the volume by building a new IT system from the ground up to handle all of the applications. And usually we might take months or even a year to build a new program before it launches. But because we didn't have a year or many months to actually build the system, we built the system while we were actually launching the program, which had some of its own challenges. But after just a very short few weeks, our vendor was able to build the system and complete the workflow process. And when I say that we were discovering issues on the fly, we were really discovering issues on the fly. So with that, we went to our sister agencies, and because the vast majority of state workers were working remotely, we were able to utilize some of those remote workers, actually about 152 of them, almost doubling the size of our department at Commerce in order to be able to train them, get them up to speed with the workflow process. As we were training ourselves, we were training our sister agency partners in being able to get the grants and the loans throughout that review process. And, like any program, you're going to run into certain challenges. And we realized that many of the applications that were coming in, they were either incomplete or there were some duplications. So we had to put together a resolution team within the department in order to be able to assist those businesses that were some of the first businesses to file on the opening dates of March 23rd and 24th, so that we could assist them with getting those applications in for their eligibility. Right now, I'm happy to say that we are getting to the finish line with the grants especially. We did prioritize the grant process because our federal partners were offering, and still are, offering loan products, but there were not grants that were available at the federal level. So we wanted to be able to get the grants out first. And as of yesterday, we have approved 5,040 small businesses with less than 50 employees, totaling almost the full amount of the $50 million that was put into the fund by the governor. And those are $10,000 grants, up to $10,000 grants. We've issued checks for more than half of them. So almost 3,000 of those businesses have received their checks in the mail. And we're starting to get some good news stories about what they're able to do in order to be able to move forward. So our next process is obviously getting the loans out in all of those applications. We have identified and approved about 1,500 applications. the loans, the businesses could apply for up to $50,000 and with a $75 million fund limit on that. So we've approved almost $71 million of that thus far. And I'm happy to say, as we are ever evolving, we found a faster, quicker, more efficient way in order to be able to get the loan applications actually out to the applicants. And we have contracted with DocuSign in order to be able to send out very large batches of these loan applications or the loan agreements at one time. So we're anticipating that by the end of this week, at least 90% of our loan applications, applicants will receive their documents in their inbox by the end of the week. And so we're really excited about learning new, faster ways every single day to get through the process. But I think that we're almost there.
Wow, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I know, it seems like when we reflect on just 6 months ago, none of us thought that we would ever be in this place, but we all can add leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship in a pandemic to our resumes, right? And it's just been really good to hear, not only at the state level, but the local level, the way that our government and quasi-government agencies have been able to pivot in these times and really be in this position to really add speed and efficiency to the way that we address business and support the business community. So, Ben, I'd like to bring your voice in this conversation. I know the last time that you were on the Small Business Network, I believe MCEDC had just announced the county's telework assistance program. So I would love an update on what's going on with that program.
Sure. Well, good morning, Kelly. And it's a pleasure to be here with you again and to be virtually surrounded by two Kellys. To Kelly Leonard, thank you for continuing to connect us with the small business community here in Montgomery County. And to Kelly Schultz, keep continuing to do the great job that you're doing on behalf of the governor and the state and making sure that we can recover from this pandemic crisis as quickly as possible. Now, here in Montgomery County, we're very excited because while we're currently in phase 1, we're looking at a phase 2 reopening on Friday. And we have had a number of programs to support businesses here in Montgomery County, not just with small business assistance, but also with the COVID-19 response to make sure that we have the environment that will allow us to recover as fully as possible. You'd mentioned the telework assistance program. We also have had the FEG, the Public Health Emergency Grants, also the Local Production Fund, $10 million for hospitals and PPE creation, and the Micro Enterprise Aid Program most recently. The programs are very effective, but one thing that we have found, and I believe Kelly has also experienced this too on the state level, is that the demand is so great right now that it far exceeds our supply of available funds. And so we all need to continue to work together to try to get to the other side, because small businesses are turning to us for assistance. And as you had mentioned, Kelly, that we are facing these profoundly shifting health, economic, and social conditions, both domestically and globally, that's going to continue to pose significant threats to Montgomery County's business development. And yet they also continue to offer unprecedented opportunities as well. So we're all going to have to adjust nimbly to today's volatile uncertainties, and that's going to require us as business and community leaders to show even greater adaptation, resiliency, and creativity in our operations. One of the areas that we think is one such great example of this resiliency is how government is responding to business needs with regulatory changes, especially the Bethesda Streetery and also Street Dine that's being created in Silver Spring. So, these outdoor dining opportunities, which we're closing streets to traffic and opening them to outdoor dining, only occurs with a close collaboration with county and business districts. And so we have to redefine our ways in which we can assist business and also work together to try to ensure that we can provide businesses to be able to reopen and to be successful on their relaunch.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Ben. Now, you alluded to PPE, so I have a question for Kelly. Ben also mentioned sort of the business adaptation and resilience and nimbleness. How has Maryland's manufacturing companies, because I know they're doing a lot to show up in a new and innovative and different way in light of the pandemic. Can you discuss the Commerce's Emergency Relief Manufacturing Fund and the PPE that local companies are providing as in response to what's going on with the crisis?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. And Ben, it's wonderful to have a partner like all of you in Montgomery County. So thank you for what you're doing for the businesses as well. So when the governor announced his business relief program, we did the grant fund of $50 million. We did the loan fund for $75 million. And then we put a $5 million program to see how innovative our manufacturing community could be in this period of time. So that was this wonderful emergency relief manufacturing fund, which is really showing the innovative side of Maryland's community. And I know that that's why Maryland businesses are so resilient. It's because of their innovation. So this fund was put together in order to incentivize our state's manufacturers to produce the PPE, the personal protective equipment, such as face masks and face shields, as well as ventilator components and other equipment. We received more than 230 applications, almost $18 million worth of requests. But right now we have identified 52 manufacturers already with more in the works, and we've approved a little over $3.5 million for those grants to go out. And what this does is it really allows the company to reimagine themselves. What can they do to produce this very necessary critical items for our healthcare and our first responders and for the general public? And is it just an investment in new equipment, or is it an investment in new staff or new training? And so we're really excited about some of the things that people have done in order to reimagine their systems and the way they work, like creating a bridal boutique that's now creating new face masks and hospital gowns and face shields, and apparel companies all over the states and sports equipment companies making those face shields. And we've just seen a wonderful growth. And I think what this program did specifically was not only did it satisfy a demand that the healthcare system had, but it also boosted up our Maryland manufacturers at a time where they may not have been able to be successful in their own operations.
Yeah, and that's awesome because it's, you know, we don't often think of the state of Maryland as being a manufacturing state. And so it's always encouraging to see the state be lifted up or elevated just outside of crabs. We're known for, you know, our great Maryland crabs, but it's great to see that we're also, you know, we're becoming more visible in these other areas. And so I applaud the state in stepping up in that regard. So Kelly, another question for you, because as the state moves towards returning to normal business operations, how's the roadmap to recovery worked so far, and what can we expect to see next?
Yeah, well, so as we know, the governor announced last week that we were fully moving into phase 2, and he has broken it up thus far into 2 separate stages. So last Friday, for example, across the state, I know some counties are going at a little bit of slower rate depending on their testing rates or hospitalization rates, et cetera. But statewide, the governor on Friday said that indoor dining could be started again, and with some limitations, of course, and outdoor attractions like carnival rides and miniature golf, and some indoor attractions coming up this Friday across the state, including malls and gyms and dance and art studios, and the casinos are going to be opening. So I think, you know, with all of those guidelines and best practices that we have put together through the work of our 13 advisory groups from different industries to be able to say what a safe opening looks like, we've been very, very successful in providing guidance to those businesses so that they could still operate in a way where their employees would feel safe and the general public would feel safe. And anybody that would like to view those best practices and those guidelines can certainly go to our website at open.maryland.gov/back-to-business.
Awesome, thank you for that. And Ben, I know Montgomery County is one of the counties that, as Kelly alluded to, some regions are a bit slower in reopening. And I know Montgomery County is one of those counties. What does reopening look like for our county and in terms of the businesses? And then how is the county and MCEDC helping in this process?
Well, we're trying to create and reimagine what reopening might be, and responding to some of the business needs that the businesses will have as they move to a increased phase of reopening. We are going to be announcing a public-private partnership this week in which it's $1 million program that will be able to take the concepts of the Bethesda Streetery and the Silver Spring Street Dine and to be able to help the restaurant and retail industry to relaunch and to look at ways in which they can reimagine their operations as we move to new phases of reopening, but also not just for the summer months, but into the fall as well as through the holidays. So it's a year-long initiative. We're very pleased that there will be $1 million in funding, including a very significant corporate contributor to this project, which we call the 3 R's initiative. So stay tuned for that. We'll be announcing that this week. You know, Kelly had talked about the importance of manufacturing. We also have a program that tried to support the localized manufacturing here in Montgomery County to help support our PPE supply. And we were thrilled with the turnout and the number of Montgomery County businesses that stepped up to help ensure that locally we had a sufficient supply of PPE. And a number of these businesses that completely pivoted from their original mission. And also the fact that 73% of the recipients, the grant recipients, were women and minority-owned businesses. So we were very pleased that we had such a strong turnout and support for helping to develop our PPE. Also, I should note that on the manufacturing side, Montgomery County, our life sciences industry has been working 24/7 on vaccines, manufacturing and treatments. We believe that a number of the businesses in Montgomery County will be on the front lines of creating the vaccine that will ultimately help us move beyond and get to the other side. And then also with the fact that NIH, Tony Fauci's NIAID, and FDA are also located in Montgomery County, we will be playing a critical role in making sure that the vaccine that we need to combat this pandemic is going to be created and manufactured. And so we're very pleased that we are the vaccine capital of the world.
Awesome. But you know what, Ben, I know you gave us a little teaser there in terms of this public-private partnership. I'm not going to let you scoot away from that subject too quickly. I won't ask you who this big corporation is that's supporting the program, but are you able to shed any light in terms of, I know you alluded to the 3 R's. Do those 3 R's signify anything?
Well, 3 R's stands for reopen, relaunch, and reimagine. What we want to do is to select targeted areas in Montgomery County and to be able to help them reimagine the retail and restaurant experience, because the restaurant industries or food and beverage establishments have been really hard hit, and we're trying to help them get back on their feet, but also find ways in which we can continue this collaboration from the public and private sectors to ensure that we have as strong an economic recovery as possible.
Awesome. And you also mentioned, because I want to switch gears just slightly away from the health pandemic and turn more around, focus on sort of what's going on in our society around racism, social justice. But one of the things that you alluded to was the fact that some of the award recipients, women and minority-owned businesses, and I know MCEDC recently issued a joint statement with Montgomery County Chamber, along with Montgomery County's African American and Hispanic chambers, standing very firmly against racism and injustice. And in that statement, MCEDC made a commitment to create a positive change. Specifically, what is MCEDC doing in that sort of move and to support that conversation and commitment forward?
You know, Kelly, we know that Montgomery County's diversity is one of our greatest strengths, but we also know that we can and must do better. You know, last week, the MCEDC joined with our local chambers to condemn the killing of George Floyd with a joint statement and a commitment that we will begin to take the necessary steps to address racism, discrimination, and economic inequity, and to say that we also know that we need to be held accountable for change. And so as representatives of the business community, we wanted to show that we're committed to working with local leaders in the public and private sectors to ensure an inclusive, equitable environment in Montgomery County, and one that can foster greater participation, equity, growth, stability, and sustainability locally. And so we need to continue to have significant community outreach and engagement, and we want to make sure that we reach out to a diverse array of local makers and manufacturers and businesses that will allow us to be as inclusive in our economic recovery as possible.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And thank you for your leadership in that regard. Kelly, along the same lines, I'd be curious to know what resources Maryland, as the state, is offering to support Black and minority-owned businesses.
Sure. And, you know, it is a very difficult time. And I think, you know, we had talked earlier about, you know, the difficulties with, you know, adjusting our way of life to a pandemic, a healthcare emergency, and our agencies moving forward in ways that we had no idea. And now we have this issue of social justice that we really need to address. And it's very, very important that we all, you know, be very mindful of that. At the Department of Commerce, about a year and a half ago, when I came to the department, we really did realize that we wanted to be able to be focused. We wanted to be able to provide those resources. So for the first time, we brought on a minority business liaison into our agency. And I can't say enough about being able to work within those very specific smaller business communities so that we can have that direct interaction with those minority business groups out there. And that's been very helpful and very eye-opening. We do have specific programs at the department as well. The first is our Small Minority and Women-Owned Business Account, which we call the VLT program, because it's funded out of the video lottery or slot machine proceeds from the casinos. And it provides financing to those types of small businesses. And it's targeted in those business areas where the Maryland 6 casinos are located, but it's not exclusively for those areas. We do have 8 fund managers that have been contracted in order to be able to administer the program and take those small business loan applications. We also have a program lovingly called MSBIDFA, but it's the Maryland Small Business Development Financing Authority, which is specifically targeted at economic and socially disadvantaged entrepreneurs. And that's a wonderful program that was set up years ago. It provides capital for businesses that may not be able to get financing through a traditional lender like a bank. So very active with that program. And that is really some of the smallest of businesses that really do not have the type of capital in order to be able to get qualified elsewhere. The Department of Housing and Community Development has a program called the Neighborhood Business Works, which is designed to help stimulate revitalization investment in Maryland's older communities. So that really does fit right in. And then also, in the state of Maryland, for our minority business owners specifically, we have the Minority Business Enterprise and the Small Business Reserve programs, which can help make sure that these businesses are included in our state's procurement and contracting opportunities for state agencies, and that's very, very important. Do not want to miss by saying that the Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women-Owned Business Affairs is a great resource for everyone. It highlights what all of these programs are, and it talks about not only resources at the state level, but at the federal and the local levels as well. And that's a great group, a sister agency, small directorate that we work closely with in order to be able to come up with some of these programs and administer them.
Awesome. Well, thank you both so much. This our time together just flies by, and we are at the end of our time. But Kelly and Ben, thank you so much for carving out time for this conversation. I know you're both extremely busy with so much going on, and I certainly also want to thank everyone who's joined us, who's tuning in online. On behalf of the entire Small Business Network team, our partners and sponsors, we look forward to seeing you again soon. Be well.